1. Connected, and we are live and up and running. Alright, welcome everyone to a new league, new series here on the channel. It's great to be bringing you the Talladega Challenge for Rolling Thunder Gaming, the championship race. It's come down to this after 14 races from right here at this exact same track. They've been running this version, this setup, every week for the last 14 weeks. They've narrowed it down to the final 4, and those guys are going to be battling out here tonight. Thank you to all the RTG guys for letting me do this. It's a real honor and a pleasure, and also an honor and a pleasure. The guy who knows a thing or two about streaming RTG races, Seth Cole. Good to have you, man.
Absolutely. I mean, I had the privilege of calling seasons 51 and 52 here for the Tally Challenge on Flat Racing Network, and I mean, you know, there's super speedway racing, and then there's super speedway racing. I mean, the way that these guys attack Talladega week after week after week, there's something different. You can't even really describe it until you experience it. And there's two ways of experiencing it as well. You can experience it here in the broadcaster's booth, and you and I have, well, gone out here on the track with these guys. And I can honestly tell you, Andrew, when I got out on the track with these guys, the way that they're able to go 3 wide, 7 rows deep, it's maybe one of the first times I was in absolute fear driving out there on the racetrack. I mean, the way these guys, the art that they have of super speedway racing, it's second to none.
I mean, these guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but they've been doing it really ever since this game came out. This is one of the older leagues. They've been running, this exact track, this exact setup for tens of seasons at this point. Couple seasons per year. So they know a thing or two of what they're doing. And it is a thing to behold, whether you're watching it or being in the middle of it, which I have a few times. I've had the honor of racing with these guys. It is an art form, and we're going to get to see it here. Of course, a couple seasons that were streamed over to the Flat Out Racing Network. Definitely go check those guys out if you're not familiar with them. Of course, that's Seth puts on a lot of those, and it's a good deal. Definitely go and check that out. So, I said the final 4. It looks like it might unfortunately be only 3 though, because of one of the final 4. Chuck McClure looks like he will not be able to make it tonight. If depending on what's going on, Chuck, if you're watching this, we hope that everything is okay. We wish you well, and wish that you were here. But still, good job getting to the final 4, no less. So, as you can see by the qualifying results, we've got ourselves a hefty field here. Well, I say hefty by maybe Top Dragster channel standards, but for these guys, this is a pretty standard field. We are looking at 32 drivers here tonight. And we're going to go down the starting lineup here, and we'll also let you know who will be battling out for the championship.
User in your channel timed out.
As Seth, I think, just fell out of TeamSpeak and maybe the server. But, let me make sure I have audio. There we go. Alright.
Entered your channel.
Welcome back. Going down the standings here, we're going to only go down a few of these. Joe DeSpirito on pole. He is one of the final, I'll say final 4, just to make it easy. So going for the championship on pole, Bernie Mobbs to his outside in car number 90. Then it's Dante Ricky Adronny Solons, Josh Metallic, and Ken Roberts, Milt Surratt, and Bob Sebanera. Tim Knopsker, one of the other championship contenders, and Dave Melson are the top 10. Seth, would you like to take over from there?
Yeah, so from 11th place on down, you've got Bob Dixon alongside of Jeremy Jeffries, a multi-time winner here in the Tally Challenge. Dave Cannon going to be rolling off from P13 alongside of Mark Paglia. Chris Elliott going to make up row 8 with Perry Bond. Wiley Coate in that Wiley Coyote bright yellow number 6 Mustang. He'll be rolling off 17th alongside of John Godfrey, who picked up a win here back in season 51. Zach Fremo, he's going to be in the 19th spot alongside of Glenn Harris, and that's going to complete the top 20.
And then from there, Brian Lovell, Mike Rogers, Richard Martin, Grant Wesley, who is the final championship contender here, starting 24th, and then Blaine Donlin rounds out the drivers who took lap times. Also starting tonight will be Michael Brown, Brian Wolf, Jerome Lewis, a driver that we're familiar with, along with Chris Emery, who saw him win a couple IMRC races. And then it's Cy Jones, Robbie Nisus, and Billy Elliser, rounding out this enormous Talladega field. This is going to be cool to build.
Just point out the side note that I out-qualified Andrew Miller. Just want to throw that out there.
I mean, that's pretty easy to do, so. I was also going to say to you, Zach Freeman going to be out there racing, and that's a guy who oh dear, we want Glenn Harris turn Bob Dixon. But that's a guy who is familiar with being up here in the booth with you for a couple seasons there, broadcasting this very series, and now he's going to be out there on track in those Red Bull colors.
Yeah, I know we're not
that's going to be cool.
I know we're not supposed to have favorites in the field, but there's definitely going to be a part of me pulling here tonight for Zach. He's actually done really well here in the Tally Challenge. Also, as you mentioned, spent a couple of seasons up in the booth with me calling the races, then got out there into the action, and obviously he's still trying to finish out the season with a win, but he made the playoffs. He's 7th in the overall standings coming into this one, so he's had himself a very good year.
I'd say so. I think one of the last races that I ran with him, which was probably a few weeks ago, he was, I think, on the front row on one of the final restarts or something like that. I don't know. I was too far back because, as if I'm good enough to get up there, but that's why I'm up here, and that's why we're gonna have some fun up here, bring you something different to watch. Of course, as always, the whole point of me streaming these races is to get the word out there about the online racing scene, and if there is anyone that will ever tell you that it's dead, just show them this. We got 32 cars out here for the championship race.
32 cars, and a lot of people will say at a super speedway that, well, it's a level playing field, everybody's got a shot. But as I mentioned here at the top of the program, this is a different level of super speedway racing. I mean, you're going to be seeing them 3 wide, several rows deep, maybe the entirety of the field. That has happened on occasion here. We've even seen them go 4 wide in certain portions of the field and actually be able to keep it together for a lap. Talladega is spacious, but usually here, especially at the older version of Talladega, 4 wide, you have to kind of lean on each other in order to be able to get the room necessary to make it into those corners, and they're able to keep it together. I just want to point out something here real quickly, Andrew, that I'm a little bit confused about, but this could be strategy. No surprise to see Joe DeSpirito up there on the top of the board. Usually it's one of what I call the Florida gang up here, whether it be DeSpirito, Bernie Mobbs, Richard Martin, or Bob Sebanera. But if you look at down outside of the top 20, Grant Wesley with that 52.896. Now, he's normally a driver that also qualifies very well. He's usually at least up at the top 5, if not the top 10. I don't know if he had a mess up maybe on his warm-up lap or what, but he's starting pretty deep in the field and going to have to maneuver his way through quite a bit of traffic here in the early stages.
I was definitely surprised to see that too, because, it's like you said, with it being such a level playing field, anyone can win, but there are definitely the favorites, guys who have the most experience and just that knack for this type of racing, like DeSpirito, like Mobbs, like maybe even a Rodney Solins or a Ken Roberts, Seminara and company, Jeremy Jeffries even. And Grant Wesley would definitely fall into that category, so surprised to see him back there, but like you said, it might be an alternate strategy call to at least have a car there at the end. A couple little tidbits to throw out there before we get to the race session. 66 laps on tap here. Pit window looking like 18 to 20 laps roughly for fuel. And this track is interesting in that the inside line, while it's definitely the shorter way around and it does work, it's not as grippy. So you will see guys pushing up from that bottom line, if you want a line that's just going to be smooth to run around, the second groove up, like just above that first set of white lines, that's probably the best place to be. But again, it is the slightly longer way around, so that's going to be the big challenge that these guys are going to be contending with tonight, just like they have pretty much every week for years now.
Yeah, that preferred line is definitely the middle line, and if you kind of split this track with those white hash marks, you're actually going to see, if it's double wide racing, more than likely both inside and outside lines sharing that middle groove between those white hash marks. So it could be very close door-to-door racing here for these guys. It's going to be interesting to see, though, just how aggressive the racing is going to be early on, because yeah, there's 3 drivers here tonight that are battling for a championship, but there are 30 other drivers in the field here this evening. They are not battling for a championship. They just want to end out the season with a W.
And any one of them can absolutely do it. I mean, I remember it was one of the first races that I ran here that you streamed, Seth, where thanks to some timely strategy, we saw some guys who were running toward the back managed to be up at the front at just the right time, and then they were able to get it up there at the front. I think I was actually one of them, and if I recall correctly, it was actually John Godfrey who was able to win that race. So definitely anyone can do it, but you also just got, there's going to be luck, there's going to be skill involved. The really speed is going to have nothing to do with it tonight. It's going to be a I would say a game of chess, but I'm going to throw this out there as a Star Trek fan. It's more like a game of Calto.
There you go. And I'll tell you what, too. Big field tonight, and only 3 drivers. They're battling for the championship, and you're probably thinking, well, then there's not going to be much of a points battle, really. They're all going to be in different areas of the field. Last season, we had 4 drivers battling for the championship in McClure, Garrett, Sebanera, and Despirito. Those 4 drivers found themselves separated by 6 positions, and even the season before that, the final 4 battling for the championship, all across the start-finish line, nose to tail, from 4th back to 7th place.
So I think these guys are going to be able to find each other. And how interesting is that, the fact that the final 4 this time, 3 of them were the final 4 last season. So, again, that just shows the guys who really have the knack for this kind of racing, and also got pretty lucky as well. Bob Sebanera not able to make it this time, but again, I'll be keeping my eye on that 712 to make something happen. Tim Nofsker, that other driver who did not make it last season, but is going for it this time around. Seth, as you mentioned, 2 of these guys have won championships before. One has not, and it's the guy who's starting the furthest back in Grant Wesley.
Yeah, Wesley ended up going to victory lane 2 weeks ago to lock himself into the final 4. He has 3 wins over the 2 wins for Despirito and the 2 wins for Nofsker this season. So you wouldn't necessarily think he's the underdog, but you're right. He's the only one of the final 4 if you also include in the defending champion Chuck McClure, who comes into this race not yet hoisting a Tally Challenge championship trophy.
And how about that? As we are coming to the green flag, it's the final race of the season. Who's going to bring home the W and who's going to bring home the title? Let's find out.
Now you're going to see that inside line get the early advantage here, at least in the first half lap, but as drivers start migrating up to the top, that sit-go dodge of Bernie Mobbs will be starting to make forward progress if he can keep them lined up behind him.
Well, they're already pretty lined up there in the inside. That's Josh Metallic who was pushing those 2 in front of him, Ricky and Despirito, but now Metallic trying to make the outside work of his own. And actually, yeah, the farther outside line, which is something a little different than what you would normally see maybe at this point in the race. Everyone actually, yeah, using the 2 outer grooves right now to make it side by side. That's something that I'm not too used to seeing myself.
Yeah, running right up the middle there of those white hash marks in that middle groove in the corners, and with them being as tight as they are, I saw a couple of drivers with a little bit of side-to-side warp. That can be testy with how close the door-to-door racing can be here. The 6 of Wiley Coat was one of those drivers I saw with a little bit of side-to-side. Nofsker there in the 088, one of our championship contenders, had a tiny bit of warp as well. There you see Wiley Coat dropping to the back, realizing the situation, just going to get to the tail, stay in the draft, and not tear up any race cars.
Yeah, that's going to be the thing. He's trying to keep in the draft as he knew they pushed up into Blaine Donlin, that 072 right there. Checking back up front, though. Looks like, I believe that is Chris Elliott. Or no, that's Milt Sard, excuse me. who has also jumped up to the outside to try to help the effort. But with them running the grippier side of the racetrack, the inside right now is where you want to be. Joe DeSpirito leading them all right now ahead of Ricky. And then Novsker, who's found his way into the top 3 already. And then Ken Roberts and Bob Sebanera.
Ken Roberts, a very good super speedway racer. We ended up seeing him, I think it was about 3-4 months ago, take part in the RTG Super Speedway Series All-Star race, and he was a contender up at the front pretty much the entirety of that night, and running full-time this season, 17th in the point stands. Hit some hard luck last week, but yeah, he's had some really good runs here this season, and right now up inside of the top 5, and I'll have to go back and look, but if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned about John Godfrey winning the season finale back in season 51 2 seasons ago. I think, I'll have to check, but I think Dante Ricky was actually the winner of last year's season finale, and he's running right there in the 2nd position.
Yeah, Dante's been around here a while. He's the head admin of one of the smaller series here at RTG, the Winston 98 series that runs on Tuesday nights. And yeah, runs with these guys week in and week out. For the most part, he's running the McDonald's colors at number 84. Ran at IMRC a while back, so it's good to see him out there on track, doing well. But I think right now everyone also just trying to kind of keep it calm. I will admit that there have been a lot of races where there have been a fair number of cautions with guys maybe just sliding up a little bit too much on the inside, not being able to make it work as well. And there were a fair number of cautions in some of those races, so you think maybe these guys just trying to settle it down a little bit. But Jeremy Jeffries, though, the leader on the outside charge, and right now just holding even with Bob Dixon right now on the 143.
Well, I'll tell you what these guys are doing. It's pretty much what they do every time they take the green flag here on Thursday nights, and that's try and get to that target lap, as you mentioned, of about 19 to 20 for that first round of green flag pit stops. Sometimes we end up seeing the caution come out just on the verge of that. And a big reason is drivers tell me that they're actually setting themselves up on track for coming to pit road. They want to gain those extra 1 or 2 positions on the racing surface before they have to duck to pit lane, because that could actually then be a net gain of 2 or 3 more positions, give them a little bit more space to attack pit road. And just to correct myself there on the stat with Dante Ricky, no, he was not the winner of last year's season finale. That was actually Jeremy Jeffries, but last year Dante Ricky did something that no driver had ever done in the Tally Challenge, and that was win 3 races in a row. He won the regular season finale and then the first 2 playoff races of that season.
Wow, well there you go. So he knows how to get it done out there, and just referring to that little stat there you said about trying to set themselves up and gain that last position or 2 coming onto pit road. That can make a difference because as someone who personally normally runs toward the back in these races, I can confirm that after pit stops, when you're that far back, it is really hard, even if you do stay with a group of cars, to stay with the leaders, because normally just by the means of cars needing to slow down at different points or try to attack pit lane a little bit differently, they get really separated when they come off the pit road, and you usually see a big pack and then some smaller ones after that. So it's really difficult to try to keep yourself up with these leaders when you're running further back. But right now we were just checking through the field. All 32 starters are still in the lead draft, which is great to see. But right now this middle line is where you want to be. It looks like that is Dave Melson, who has now jumped up to the outside. And Zach Freeman now jumping up there as well. But everyone's still pretty orderly. Little tight there for some of these guys, but not quite halfway through the fuel run yet. It's a long race, long way to go.
Right now you've got 2 of your championship contenders running in 1st and 3rd. Remember, Grant Wesley didn't exactly have the best of qualifying efforts, and I don't know what kind of a strategy he had coming into this race, but he might have had to call an audible with the fact that he started this race outside the top 20. Still running back around where he started. Last time crossing the 23rd position, so might just be riding for the time being, taking care of his equipment, waiting to see what's going to open up for him if we end up getting to that first round of green flag pit stops. His big checkup in front of him. Somebody got out of the throttle. Might have been Bernie Mobbs, and they were almost 3 wide there for a moment. 2 or 3 cars nearly ran each other over. They all settled out for the time being, but now almost some contact between Paglia and Chris Elliott. 3 wide, 2 rows deep.
Yeah, Chris Elliott and Pegler got really, really close right there. Elliott had to check up. Now it looks like they're trying to settle it down. I think that is John Godfrey there on the inside, not where you want to be right now with no help. But yeah, you're right. That was right in front of Grant Wesley. So I'm sure that his heart probably went to his throat there for a second, and he was thinking, oh boy, this is not what I want to see. Yeah, running the farthest back right now, but if things do work in his favor, of course, a long way to go. Plenty that can happen as they all try to settle it down after a little bit of a scare. Robbie Nisus nearly gets into the wall. And now the outside is actually maybe starting to charge a little bit more here. Melson leading Jeffries and Metallic. They've gotten up now to Sebanera up in fourth.
I checked back, and over in turn 3, that checkup actually started up in the 7th position. Bob Dixon was going into the corner. He checked up a little bit, had Milt Surratt into the back of him, who then in turn had Dave Cannon into the back of him. And that's when everybody spread 3 wide, and actually at one point they were 4 wide, but all able to keep it together, all still up here in this lead pack. So dodged an early bullet here tonight in the season finale.
Yeah. But that's another thing, and I'm sure that you can attest to this, Seth, as a fellow driver. With these CTS physics, and also at this track, with this setup, the suck-up that these cars have and the hole that they punch in the air is huge. So these cars get really big runs, but at the same time, you really don't want to be bumping in the corner. That's what causes a lot of the trouble. So you're going to have someone that lifts just a little bit, like the second car back, and then the third guy has to lift at just the right point, and it's just a domino effect of people needing to check up more and more, so that by the time you get to the end of the line, it is a major checkup just because of how much these cars want to get up to the rear of the car in front of them.
You talk about the generating of runs, and there's a lot of different things that combine into that ability. Already, as you mentioned, the CTS physics, that's definitely one of the things. The setup as well, but there's also the track INI in terms of the grip levels that are given to each one of these particular grooves. Normally, if you go into a normal 2003 track INI, you'll see asphalt grip, concrete grip, grass grip, and paint grip. But if you go into this Tally Challenge track, there's about 5 or 6 decimal point grooves, 6 different grooves where grip is given, less grip on the bottom, more grip on the top. That's why you see the runs into the middle, the runs on the top when we get towards the end of these races, because these drivers are utilizing the grip, even though it's the longer way around the racetrack, to be able to make it a battle back to that start-finish line.
Absolutely. That's why the inside line, at least down next to the yellow line, is not where you want to be. At least when you're side by side, when you start getting about 3 wide, and how the aerodynamics work, that's when it can at least start to hold its own. But as we've seen, though, no one has really been down there to make anything happen. Really, everyone that's been down there has just been trying to avoid trouble. Everyone who's been trying to make the move has been trying to do so on the high side, which is definitely different from what I experienced, at least in the past several weeks. So I think that they've definitely learned something. I think they've also learned that, hey, maybe it's just good to run it out right now. But at this point, we've had 13 green flag laps, and we're already getting pretty close to those pit stops. I would imagine probably within the next 5 laps, you might start to see some of the first.
Yeah, and that guy out in front, Oda Spirito, is going to be one of the first guys you're going to see ducking onto pit lane. He's out in front here ahead of the mayhem going on behind him. That's the good thing. The bad thing, though, is he's cutting the draft for everybody else behind him, thusly using up the most fuel. So his fuel number is going to be anywhere from a half lap, maybe even to a lap and a half shorter than Dante Ricky, Tim Nofsker, and others behind him. And seeing some drivers here with the warp issue again, Nofsker being one of them. And you'd hate to see, we already know that Chuck McClure is not going to be able to go for back-to-back championships. He was unable to make the race here tonight. You hate to see a championship contender's chances taken out of the running just based off of connection problems.
That would be a bummer. I mean, especially if it starts to get really bad. The normal protocol is to try to jump out of line and get to the back so that that doesn't cause any problems for anyone else. But yeah, as a championship driver, that is the last thing that you'd want to see. It's basically one of those things. It's like you could call it the equivalent of like an engine failure or something, where it's something that is completely out of your control. You have nothing to do with it, and just like that, your championship hopes are dashed. So Definitely something to keep an eye on. What I'm also going to start to keep an eye on, though, is these guys on the outside, Jeremy Jeffries, Chris Elliott, Josh Patalik, Perry Bones up there as well. All those guys are going to have to start making their way in line, and that was going to be my next point, was with a big field like this, and the fact that you want to pit with as many cars as you can so that you keep the draft, that is where things get pretty hectic coming onto pit road with 20 plus cars.
Yeah, no doubt about that. But, you know, a lot of times I've had the opportunity to observe these guys in green flag pit stops, and it's like watching air traffic control. I don't know how they're able to figure out each other's braking zones, where they need to go to be able to avoid an incident, but I've seen upwards of 20 plus cars be able to make it onto pit lane and be able to make it onto pit road without incident. It's just incredible to watch these guys at work, and they do it so well in terms of communication, which lane they're going to be taking on entry. They'll say either I'm going to be swinging out.
Roberts just got hit from the 712 above Sebanera. That's going to be a big one.
Oh man, we got a flipped car.
I think that's...
Might have been Rodney Sullins.
Yep, that is Sullins.
And now Metallic's up and over.
Up goes Metallic. A number of other cars are stopped, and the caution is going to fly. Oh, I saw that, Ken Roberts.
Wesley, I think he snuck his way through.
Man, I was looking right at that when it happened. Bob Sebanera just barely tapped the back of Ken Roberts. And that's what caused mayhem behind him, and that's it. All it takes is just one small little mistake, and everyone else has to avoid it and check up, and unfortunately not enough time for most of these guys. We'll have an official look here. I was just about to point out that everyone was starting to migrate down next to the yellow line, and then all of a sudden this happened. Oh man.
Not necessarily certain if maybe Ken checked up in relation to the warp of Tim Nosker ahead of him or not, but clearly see there was not a whole lot of daylight between his rear bumper and the front bumper of Bob Sebanera going there into turn 3. And you know, I could run you a list of the drivers involved, but it's at this point in time when you have a wreck this big, it's basically just watch the replay and see if your favorite driver got through.
Yeah, pretty much. If I had to take a guess, I think that Roberts was maybe trying to let Nosker in line, and Sebanera wasn't ready for it, and that was that. And then it looked like Bob Dixon may have turned the 038 of Dave Melson, and Grant Wesley did actually get into the front of the 038. Don't know how much damage that's going to be. These guys are running on moderate damage. But, so Wesley, technically, I guess you could say, involved in that, and then it looked like a number of guys just going for spins. Of course, we did have a couple rollovers, but nothing too catastrophic despite the number of cars involved.
No, I'm a little worried about the left side damage on Josh Metallic, who had the late flip, but the car that initially had the flip there after contact between himself and I think it was Mark Paglia, and that was Rodney Sullins, he didn't spend very much time on his roof, and he didn't take that hard an impact to the outside wall. As you mentioned, with the moderate damage, sometimes you can actually go for a barrel roll and your car is still aerodynamically up to speed. That might be the case there for the 38. Metallic, on the other hand, there, though, I'm not necessarily certain, since I see some side damage on his U.S. Air Force Ford. That car might be a mile or two off the pace here when we get ready for the restart.
That definitely might hurt his ability to suck up to the driver in front of him. That was actually a strange flip, the way that he kind of bounced off of a Solon's car and just sent him over. That was definitely one of the stranger ones. We saw Dave Cannon go for a spin as well. But again, I think that Metallic might be in the worst shape, and that's to say that he's not in too bad a shape. So I think a number of guys got pretty lucky on that one. Unfortunately, I do think that might be a penalty for the 712 of Sebanera. I don't remember if they have the EOL penalties enforced. I think they do. As I just I can't help but notice the 9 and the 143 now knows the tail, and Doritos buddies running together
Doritos
there.
Brigade, yes indeed.
Yeah, you've got some really. I say this about almost every series I do, but it's really true just about everywhere you go, and here is no exception. some amazing paint schemes out there. I know that a number of these guys do paint their own cars. Chuck McClure does a lot of painting for these guys. And there are some really, really neat ones out there. I love the Domino's colors on Dave Cannon's car. Of course, also seeing all the full variety of manufacturers, Toyotas, Fords, Chevys, and of course you gotta love seeing some Dodges out there as well, including Wesley, who it looks like might actually have gained a fair amount of track position now.
Up to the 11th position is where he last just crossed the start-finish line there. So going to be just outside of the top 10 when we get ready to go back green flag racing.
That is going to be
Oh, correction. I'm sorry. My scoring didn't update. He's actually going to be restarting in 9th. So he is up inside the top 10 now.
So that's going to be interesting to see what he's going to be able to do now that he's a little bit further forward. Most things have stayed fairly the same. Of course, aside from the cars involved in that incident, Joe DeSpirito will retain the lead as it stands, and it's Dante Ricky and Tim Knopfsker in third, so he's still got first and third of the championship contenders. Then it's Jeremy Jeffries and Chris Elliott rounding out the top 5. And then it's Dixon, Sebanera, who I think is yet to serve his penalty. Again, if that applies, Perry Bone is now up in 8th place, at least for the time being. And then Wesley and John Godfrey, the top 10 as of right now.
Like a couple of guys came down a second time to pit road, maybe to just top off the fuel tank. Billy Elliser in the 26th and Zach Freemow in the 006. And it's interesting, I was looking, when we came into this race, looking at our championship 4, and we mentioned the fact that 3 of them former champions coming into this race. Now, Chuck McClure, 4 championships to his name, the most recent, of course, last year in season 52. Joe DeSpirito, a 2-time champion, and the most recent for him was 2 seasons ago back in season 51. We talked about Grant Wesley not having a championship, but I'll tell you what, I think Knopfsker's hungry too, because 53rd season here for the Tally Challenge, you got to go all the way back to season 38, 15 seasons ago when Knopfsker won his championship, so it's been a bit of a championship drought for him as well.
And in regard to, I guess, like real life time, that's got to be at least a good few years. So, Knopfsker definitely looking to try to end that drought. I mean, it's great to see him here in the Final Four. Of course, no surprise though for really any of them. I mean, all these guys are, I would argue, the best of the best in superspeedway racing. In NR. That's all there really is to it.
You can argue, and I'm not going to contradict you.
Well, yeah, you've seen these guys plenty of times. They know their stuff. Sebanera is actually going to hold his spot, so they may have deemed that a racing deal. Maybe, of course, everyone is in the same room here in TeamSpeak, which is slightly different compared to IMRC, which is what we normally see. They're usually in different team rooms to kind of talk amongst themselves. In this case, all these guys are in one place, so they're probably able to communicate like, oh, this happened and that happened, so then they can kind of deem what happened and how it happened so that they can assess penalties accordingly. Of course,
I gotta chuckle
sorry.
real quick. You just gotta throw this out here because this statistic has me smiling. You talked about it possibly being a few years based on the fact they run about 2 or 3 seasons during the course of a year in the Tally Challenge since Knopfsker won his championship. Well, it would have been back in 2016 when he won that championship, and it would have been 5 years ago to the day yesterday.
Oh, no way.
August 11th, 2016 was when he won that championship.
Oh man, I'm sure that he'll appreciate that, and I'm sure that hey, maybe some good fortune. We'll just have to see. 5 years. I wasn't even sim racing yet. Just to throw that out there.
I've been getting my feet wet. I don't remember when I first started, to be honest. It was so long ago.
It was late 2017. I know that for me. When I got it going here, I'm going to send a shout out here to Perry Bone real quick. Who's up here in the top 10. A skill driver in his own right, but again, one of those that you usually see maybe hanging out toward the back. But right now up in the top 10. That is great to see. I was going to make a point earlier, but now I don't remember what it was. We are going green here with exactly 46 laps to go.
And that caution came out about, what, 3, 4, 5 laps before these drivers were thinking about making the green flag pit stop, so it kind of shuffled the number now of when these drivers will next have to be on pit lane. Probably around the lap 40 mark is when we might see potentially the first round of green flag pit stops, which means that 26 laps to go, so these guys cannot make it on just one more pit stop yet.
Not yet, as we were talking about that inside line being tight. It got real tight there for Tim Knopsker. He nearly got into Dante Ricky, but now, with where that outside line is formed, that's going to force those guys down there. Knopsker, Elliott, and I believe that's John Godfrey. Or no, that's Sebanera, excuse me. I'm too many cars. But now they're going to have to try to hold their own on that inside, which said wasn't preferred. 3 wide. Here is Brian Wolf gets a bump there from, I believe that was the 020.
Oh, there's a big wreck. Michael Brown in the 20 as well. Yep.
As Michael Brown.
Oh, Cy Jones.
Oh. He tried. Oh, that was close.
It's so unpredictable sometimes to know where a car is going to spin. Normally with this banking over in the corners, they will usually spin down to the inside line, but Cy Jones picked the wrong lane there, and Brian Wolf slid up into his path, but didn't look like a whole lot of hard impact there, and I did notice just before that happened that the 29 of Brian Wolf was doing some side-to-side warping, so I'm wondering if bumper grab might have come into play here.
That's possible, and I mean, I definitely think that the 020 there, Michael Brown was. I mean, it was just those two on the outside of 3 wide, so they were probably also just doing their best to hold their own and try not to get too swamped. But then just going through the tri-oval may have just been a bad bump, or a little bit of a bumper grab as well, which is always a risk at these races. So caution number 2 flies here. This will allow them to save a little bit of gas. It does make you wonder with these caution laps if maybe some drivers at the back might try to be a little bold and maybe try to save a couple laps here, a couple laps in the second stint to be able to make it on one stop. Do you think that would be possible?
Well, based off of the numbers I had when we went at green, when these drivers would be coming to pit road next, they would be 26 laps short. And then they would have to come pit road again with about, 5 to 6 laps left. So I don't see, at least in this stint, I don't see any strategy playing out in terms of saving fuel. If anything, it's just to make sure that you can maybe stay out a couple laps later than the rest of your competition if we do get into a round of green flag pit stops. But look at this, we only ran, 2, maybe 1.5 green flag laps right there, and everybody's back down pit road again. This is to top off the fuel tank. There's no urgency for tires, so you might see a lot of gas and goes here.
Yeah, I would definitely say so, except for the guys, trying to hanging out in the back. I am noticing, I don't know if this is strategy and he might come in later, but Chris Emery and Jerome Lewis have stayed out. A couple other guys toward the back. Is coming off pit road here. Dante Ricky and Jeremy Jeffries are going to beat the 24 off of pit road. And also a fun little tidbit, Despirito, Knopsker, and Wesley are now in line together. Looks like it would be 3rd, 4th, and 5th, assuming that everyone else also comes down pit road here.
I told you they'd find each other at some point in this race. Didn't take long, only a third of the way through, and they're all battling for the championship. Now, Despirito, the big reason why he's back there is he had a pit road miscue. Has that number 1 pit stall after starting in the pole here tonight, but he overshot his stall, and that cost him some valuable time. That's how Dante Ricky and Jeremy Jeffries got out ahead of him, and how he barely was able to get out ahead of Knopsker and Grant Wesley. So, going to be back in a little bit of traffic here now after spending 21 of these laps out in that clean air out in front. And I love this strategy, to be honest, here for Chris Emery and Jerome Lewis, because there was only about maybe 1 full lap under green flag conditions that would have been used up in terms of fuel. I love this gamble to get the track position. Why not? Because we've seen a lot of drivers so far here tonight have that side-to-side warp, We've seen some stack-ups take place in the first couple laps of this race. Get yourself out there in that clean air, out where there's not a whole lot of racing going on, not a whole lot of chance of tearing up that race car. Yeah, you're a little bit shorter than everybody else on fuel, but I think it's earlier enough in this race that you can definitely take that gamble.
Absolutely agreed. A lot of leagues and a lot of races where you see Chris Emery, you'll see Jerome Lewis and vice versa. Those two are good friends probably off the track. Of course, we see them race at IMRC all the time. Chris Emery.
Winner in IMRC.
Huh?
Winner in IMRC.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Chris Emery winning 2 races in a row recently. So he knows how to get it done, but now looking to show his muscle here at the superspeedway. And Jerome Lewis up here as well. We saw Robbie Nisus and Cy Jones come down pit road there. Lights appear to still be on the pace car. So we still have one more lap under pacing here after this one, and then we'll be going green on lap 27.
Now, just to clarify here as well, with Joe DeSpirito having led almost a entirety of this race at this point, 21 of the 25 laps that we have completed, it comes down to just finishing position for the final 4 in this finale. They do, during the course of the regular season and during the course of the playoffs, the 2 rounds leading up to the season finale, they do have the bonus points in place, where if you lead a lap, you get a bonus point. If you lead the most laps, you get a bonus point. I'm not 100% certain, but I think they have pole position points as well. But when we get to that season finale, all those bonus points are out the window. It just comes down to who finishes the best. So those 21 laps that Joe DeSpirito has led so far here tonight, they are a moot point as far as the championship is concerned.
Yep, the usual deal of you can lead 65 laps, but if you don't lead the last one, well, that doesn't matter. And if DeSpirito leads 65 laps, and say Grant Wesley leads the last one, well, we know who's getting the championship. So oh my goodness, that's why I'm gonna move on now.
Commercial break.
We do have one retiree out of the race after that wreck. Brian Wolf, credited as wheel problem. So he is the first retiree, only driver not on the lead lap now. So 31 cars still on track, and all 31 of them are still on the lead lap.
Not sure what wheel problem indicates. I don't know if that's the case of maybe him having a tire that went down after his spin, and so the game basically indicating that since he wasn't able to leave his pit stall with that tire down, that would be the wheel problem. We did see the car, though, kind of turn to the left when he got into Dave Cannon, initiating the contact that led to that yellow flag coming out. So it might have been something mechanical with his steering wheel and his rig, perhaps.
I mean, that does happen from time to time. It didn't look like he hit too hard, so I can't imagine that it was excessive damage that would have done him in. I mean, could be any number of possibilities, but still, that is a bummer. Of course, racing for Cannon, so shout out to those guys. Blaine Dahlman also trying to get the word out about Cannon, and of course NR Racing as well. But that's a bummer to see. So, Chris Emery and Jerome Lewis will be the front row, having stayed out, and like you said, only going to be about a lap or 2 shorter on fuel than everyone else. Dante Ricky and Jeremy Jeffries will be the second row. Then it's Joe DeSpirito and Tim Nofsker, row number 3. And then Grant Wesley in 7th. Of course, you got your final 3 all right on top of each other there. Perry Bone still running solidly in 8th. And then it's Bob Dixon and Bob Sebanera, a Bob-filled row number 5.
We're going to have to see, Joey Logano coined it the okie dokie, where teammates would start up on the front row and try and be able to manipulate the restart where they could get themselves lined up nose to tail. And I've seen it attempted several times here in the RTG Tally Challenge. Sometimes it works, Sometimes it doesn't. Well, Chris Emery and Jerome Lewis, they are teammates. Let's see if they can pull off the okie dokie. Is it going to be the case of Jerome Lewis trying to tuck down in front of Emery? Will he let Emery up in front of him when they come off turn 2? I guarantee you, Dante, Ricky, and Jeremy Jeffries, they're going to try to do their best to not allow them to get hooked up.
True that. Jerome Lewis is a really good pusher, but we're going to find out as a shove there from Jeffries on the restart here with officially 40 laps to go. And Emery is going to clear the 6:16, so it's a matter of, is he going to jump up in front of him, or is he maybe going to try and bring Dante Ricky with him, knowing how strong of a car that 84 is?
Like Dante's going to get clear. I thought he might jump up there in front of Jerome Lewis, but instead he'll stay to the bottom, get the push from Despirito. Emery now jumps up to the top. And, ooh, a little bit of checkup there with the 6:16. That's going to hurt that outside line. Dante Ricky now going to get the run into 3 alongside of the 222.
The 222 trying to leave the outside, but with that checkup, that's going to hurt them a little bit. That's what that inside line needs, because they're not going to have the momentum that the outside line's going to have once we get running here. Ricky is going to lead this lap, but he is certainly not clear yet of the 222. He might be able to do so on entry here. Looks like he will indeed do so, so now it's going to be a matter of which line he's going to choose to go with here, if he's going to try to get the momentum of the outside or stick with the 2 championship contenders who are right behind him. Tim Novsker is the one who's actually starting to fall back of those 3, but still only 4th car on the outside line, so they're still trying to hold their own.
Yeah, he was the unfortunate one of the trio battling for the championship in terms of the line he was in with that stack up on the top side, and that allowed Despirito and Wesley to edge ahead. But I'll tell you what.
Oh, look at this.
You know, my heart's starting to creep up into my throat. I'm seeing a lot of movement up here at the front, maybe more movement than I've seen in quite a while here in the Tally Challenge. These guys are fighting their race cars, and that might be why we've seen the 2 cautions so far here tonight. Is Jerome Lewis, he's headed for the back.
Man, yeah, Jeremy Jeffries went up the middle, and that shuffled him out of line. Perry Bone jumped underneath trying to get in line, and that's going to work out. But just like that, to the rear is going to be Jeremy Jeffries. Jerome Lewis, excuse me. Chris Emery nearly jumping out of line a little abruptly right there. But now Ricky has brought those guys up to the middle line. Of course, that being Despirito and Wesley. Emery trying it again. Jeremy Jeffries thinking about it, but going to go back to the outside.
You see right there, Emery with about car length back to Bob Dixon has nothing for those cars on the top side. They gained about a car length and a half on him just on that middle of the tri-oval to start-finish line alone, and now Novsker trying to help lead the charge on that top side as well. Top 4 have gotten themselves single file, trying to put some daylight back to 5th place, which is Novsker. Now he'll close that back up as he's got help from Perry Bond. There's Bob Sebanera there in the 712 as well, after he had his early issues with that stack up.
Oh boy, that line that Bone's running there is making me a little bit nervous. We'll see if Sebanera tries to force the issue or not. Looks like he thought better of it. But that's always the thing. When that gap opens up and you're like, hey, maybe I can get my nose in there and bring the rest of it with me. That's always going to be that's always the nervous factor of racing tight quarters like this at Talladega. Sebanera thought about it, and then Bone was able to hold on to it for the time being. But just like that, we were talking about how much the inside line is the less gripped up line. Chris Emery having a harder time holding it down there, and of course now with less cars down there, they are going backwards in a hurry. Him, Dixon, and Bernie Mobbs in that number 90, they are heading in the wrong direction as the middle line forming up pretty nicely. Actually, credit to Jerome Lewis, who was able to file into line here and is going to be scored 9th.
I mentioned earlier about the difference in grip depending on which line you take into the corner. Whoa! Big check up there from Novsker.
Oh my goodness.
Center of 1 and 2. I'm not sure what happened there, but it almost looked like he lost a couple miles per hour.
He completely fell back from those guys.
I'm checking that one back because you could see Jeremy Jeffries pulling away.
Yeah, they're all scattered behind him.
Credit to Perry Bond for backing off and giving the opportunity for Novsker to recover, but that's one of the strangest things I've ever seen. I don't have any explanation for that one.
You didn't warp or anything?
Don't believe so.
Man, because yeah, that top 4 is gone, and everyone else behind him is all over the place. We're seeing 3 wide in multiple places. Oh boy! Oh, look out! Brian Lovell trying to get in line.
I was right on board with them, and you heard the car bog down. The needle there on the RPMs hovering between midway between 7 and 8,000 actually started migrating its way down to 7,000. So I'm very curious as to what it was there. He didn't clutch it, but it was odd. It was an anomaly, no doubt about that. That's one of the first times I think I've ever seen that, and like I said, I have no explanation for it. Fortunately, though, he's back up here with the top 4. He's brought the rest of the field with him.
I mean, even if he was saving fuel, I would find it hard to believe that he would do it at that given point and lose that much ground.
Yeah.
So I gotta think that maybe that was even something like mechanically wrong. Maybe his like something going funky with his like actual pedals, which I've heard guys having problems with before in the past. So or something weird with warp. I know that that has happened to me where cars have disappeared around me, and it's like the game thinks that, oh, I've lost the draft, so you lose some speed that way. But in reality, you're still around everybody. So, I don't know, a lot of weird things that we've seen Novsker with some side-to-side earlier. So, any number of possibilities. But all that matters right now is that they've settled it back down again. He's back in line. And we are officially just past the halfway point now.
Andrew, remember when we had that big wreck there out of turn number 4? We had a couple of drivers that flipped upside down. When we had that restart, we only got about a lap and a half in before the caution came out again. What that did, it did not allow those drivers that sustained the damage to figure out how up to speed their machines are. Now that we've gone this long green flag run, I would assume that Rodney Sullins may have been down on power after he had his barrel roll over there in turn 4, and he's brought his car to the garage area, going to finish 31st in tonight's season finale.
Yeah, that's a bummer. You really didn't want to see that. I'm actually surprised that he fell off that much, because when you just mentioned that, I went ahead and jumped back to Josh Metallic here to see how he's doing. And he's in a line of cars, which is certainly helping him, but at the same time, he's right on the tail of the guys in front of him. He's also got a driver who was involved in the last caution, Michael Brown, in front of him. Both those guys looking like they're in good shape, and they're spinning up at the front. Perry Bone appears to be around.
And there's another car with him as well. It's either Dixon or Elliott, I believe. It's Bob Dixon, the 143, as both of those cars were sliding backwards against that inside retaining wall.
Looks like only a 2-car incident, but the caution has waived for the 3rd time here tonight. Just shy of 30 laps to go, and that is some rear end damage on the 143. A little bit less, but still some damage also on the Mobile 1 number 60.
It was a 3-wide situation off of 2, Andrew, and the car that was on the inside was Bob Dixon. And as we've alluded to, when that right front tire starts to heat up and you run the inside line, the car naturally wants to push up towards the outside coming off the corner. And that's exactly what happened to him. Unfortunately for Perry Bond, he was in the wrong place, wrong time. And had the two of them not made contact, we probably would have been 4 wide down the back straightaway, because Bernie Mobbs was taking a peek to the inside of Dixon at the time.
Yeah, Mobbs had a pretty big run there. He got into the back just a little bit of the spin in 143. But again, only 2 cars involved, which is always good to see. Not too many cars in it, but that was a pretty hard hit for Bob Dixon. I don't know how his car is going to be faring after that one. I think that he actually just retired. I just saw him leave TeamSpeak.
And you are correct. He is indeed out of the race. But going back to that question you were asking of not knowing the damage that he sustained, how up to speed he is. Super speedway races with moderate damage is a thing that I cannot wrap my head around in terms of, is it up to speed or is it not? I've seen cars with harmless flips, like I thought there for Rodney Sullins that he would still be up to speed, I thought that Josh Metallic took the bigger barrel roll, yet he's still in the race and someone's in the garage area. I think it was back in season 51. Jessica Shelton was involved in a wreck where the whole back end of the race car was pushed in. That thing still was up to speed and finished up inside of the top 5. So when it comes to figuring out if these things are still capable of winning the race, it's just kind of wait and see. You can't really make a prediction with these things.
Pretty much. It's a guessing game, pretty much. Looks like pretty much everyone coming back down pit road here. We're looking at Joe DeSpirito at the moment. Looks like, no, Tim Nofsger is going to lead them off of pit road there. Maybe. Or nope, DeSpirito got him.
Yep.
The luxuries of that... Sorry.
The commit line is inches in front of Joe DeSpirito, so that's how he gets that advantage. As long as he gets the splitter across that yellow line before anybody else, he is the one that's going to be getting all that track position.
Yep, the luxuries of that line. I really thought that Nofsger would have had it there, but not quite. Nofsger did, however... Oh no, he didn't get in front of Dante Ricci. That's actually kind of surprising. Oh, and I think that's why.
Penalty, yep.
EOL, possibly speeding for Tim Nofsger. Looks like also Ken Roberts.
Also got a penalty for speeding.
Well, we had a couple of guys there. I see Ken Roberts going the other way as well.
Jeremy Jeffries in the 8 possibly also back there.
Holy smokes. You see some of the front runners. Well, not toward the front now. But at the same time, I mean, they know how to get it done. So we'll see if they'll be able to make the charge forward. They're going to have to do that now as DeSpirito is going to hang on to at least probably the race lead. We see Cy Jones, Wiley Code, and Blaine Donlin have stayed out for the time being. Looks like at least the 6 and 72, or the 072, excuse me. And yep, the 7 is coming in as well. So DeSpirito will inherit the lead ahead of Ricky and Wesley. So first and third once again for 2 of the championship contenders. And of course, one of the final 4 from last season, Bob Sebanera, up here as well, now to 4th.
You know the old adage, the more things change, the more they stay the same. You know, coming into tonight, you talk about these amazing paint schemes. There's about maybe 4 or 5 drivers that I was able to pick out that I absolutely recognized. Just about everybody in the field here tonight is running either a different looking paint scheme from when I last saw a Tally Challenge race, or running a different manufacturer. I'm still trying to wrap my head around Wesley in a Dodge and Chevrolet, but I'll get used to it. But one thing that definitely has not changed is the driving styles there. We saw Robbie Nice stay out and lead a lap under pacing back under the first caution, and nice to see Cyber leading a lap there under pacing as well before bringing that Sunoco Chevrolet to pit lane.
Yeah, that's kind of the way that they usually go about it. They'll stay out for the first lap around, and then they'll try to steal a lap lead, and then they'll come in and get their service to hang out at the back and try to avoid the trouble. That's always how Cy Jones has done it. I know that because me and him are usually in similar predicaments. Always manage to find each other back there and try to make something work. So, I mean, credit to those guys. They are just trying to have some fun, but at this point in the race, they're definitely going to be able to try to keep their cars clean to make something happen at the very end. Lights are still on the pace car. We are coming to lap number 40. I think that, we should definitely be in the window for one more stop at this point.
Yep, if they were able to stretch it a full fuel run from this point on, they would be roughly in the 7.5 to 9 lap range of being short of the finish. So this could definitely open up the window as well for drivers to maybe play some strategy. Some drivers like to come down pit road as soon as that window is open, pit all together with a big group, go out there and try and keep themselves out of the late trouble. On the other hand, a lot of drivers want to stretch it as far as possible, come down pit lane, and spend as little time on pit road as they possibly can to get that tank filled up to where they need it to be in order to make it to the finish. One driver that this caution really helped, though, Andrew, was Jerome Lewis. Remember, he and Chris Emery stayed out under the last yellow flag to gain track position. We saw Lewis starting to fade towards the back. He then actually started making forward progress again, and now on the same sequence with everybody else in that 7th spot. So a big net gain for him in terms of the strategy he played under the last caution.
Oh yeah, true that, and we'll be able to pit with everybody this time. I will call this out though, that I saw Mark Paglia and Tim Nofsker come back down pit road there to top off. So what that could open the door for is maybe instead of taking a full can, they might only need to take a half a can or something like that to try to save a couple seconds on pit road and either get that track position back, or better yet, just get ahead of everybody else and try to settle it amongst yourselves. I've seen that strategy pulled plenty of times, so we'll see if maybe that'll work out for them, if that even is the play for them right now.
When you're out there on the racetrack, sometimes you're not able to see what your competition is doing. Being up here in the broadcast booth, you got that eye in the sky, you got access to all the camera angles. Tim Nofsker, when he came off pit road, clutched it all the way from turn 1 to the exit of turn 2. So he is in heavy fuel save mode right now in that 088.
Oh, then he's definitely going to try to stretch it as far as he can to try to get that track position back that he just lost. He had been up there pretty much all day. A penalty has sent him to the back. Mark Paglia might be doing the same thing. Shout out to him. Hope that he's doing well. Unfortunately lost his wife to cancer a little bit ago. Prayers out to him, and Mark, we hope you're doing well, man. Go get him out there tonight in that 028. So the 24 and the 84 are going to be the front row here. Joe DeSpirito back into familiar territory at the front at Talladega.
Come around and lead his 24th lap of the evening here as well in that black and neon Exalta Chevrolet. He and Dante Ricky have pretty much been the top two for the majority of this race, but look at Wesley. He says, hey, it's time to go. He's going to shove that 24 into turn 1.
A pretty good shove there from Wesley, those two championship rivals. But DeSpirito not content to stay with him. He's going to jump up to the outside, but now he's got a gap back to Ricky. And Wesley might try to take advantage of that. He's going to have Chris Elliott behind him. The outside, though, with a great push, though, to DeSpirito. He's going to be clear, at least for the time being. They're a little bit close there. That's behind Richard Martin and Brian Lovell. That nearly was catastrophic up there. But Jerome Lewis now on the inside, but gap back to Wesley, who's going to get up to the outside. And now has a couple cars to navigate between him and the 24.
You know, we have the Doritos Brigade. How about the Nos Brigade there? 3 of them inside of those 4 cars from 4th position back to around 8th. You've got the 88 of Wesley. You've got the 38 of Dave Melson right behind him. The 43 of Richard Martin, rather. So all the NOS cars have found each other here on the racetrack.
A lot of guys running the same D. There it goes again. Running the same deal. I'm gonna send a shout out here though to a guy who we haven't mentioned and is now up here in the top 10. The 08 Krispy Kreme colors of Glenn Harris, another guy who manages to sneak his way into the top 10 often in these Talladega races, runs with these guys almost every week. So that's great to see the 08 running strong. But just like that, the middle line is forming up, and that is where everyone's wanting to go.
Yeah, looks like Glenn Harris got left out to dry. He's going to start heading backwards. Former finale winner from 2 seasons ago, John Godfrey, right behind him.
Oh, Emery into the wall!
That was Paglia and Chris Emery who made some contact. Emery got the worst of that there, pancaking the right side.
Oh, that might be trouble for him in the draft. Blaine Donlan's going to try to help him back up there. Tim Nofsker was right behind that and is actually barely hanging on to the draft himself. Looks like he should be able to. And as long as the 222 and the 072 can stay hooked up like that, and they stay 3 wide in front of him, that'll help too.
Yeah, made no contact to Tim Nofsker. It was bumper grab between Paglia and Emery there down the back straightaway. Just didn't have those bumpers lined up as Nofsker was giving a heck of a shove to the 222. So Unfortunate circumstances there. No caution, however, as they still stay 3 wide. Robbie Nisus has now jumped up in front of Jeremy Jeffries, and this is where you're going to start to see those lines formulate. If these cars up on the top can make forward progress, the guys ahead of them will notice this. They will jump up to the top as well, and we could end up seeing 3 wide racing up at the front of the field for the race lead in the next couple of laps.
Yeah, this could tell these guys something about maybe how it's going to go later in the night. Shout out to Jeffrey Elliott in the chat saying, "Go Chris Elliott." Papa Ed and I are watching. So I think we got some Chris Elliott fans, or family I should say. It's great to see everyone here. Thank you all for tuning in to the first RTG stream on the channel. It's always good fun bringing you these online races, whether it's IMRC or otherwise. And of course, thank you to the RTG guys for letting me do this.
Brian Lavelle going backwards now. He got kicked up to the outside. Now he's not falling back nearly as quickly as I expected. He was holding alongside of Richard Martin pretty well there for a couple of corners. Now he's going to lose a spot to Milt Surratt. Also going to fall back behind Bernie Mobbs and tuck right in front of Glenn Harris. So he'll drop from the 10th position back to 13th, but at least finds his way in line and only lost a couple of spots after being left out of the draft.
Well, now trying that outside line is Michael Brown. There's Zach Freeman up there. And then Josh Vitalik, Wiley Coate, and a number of other guys just trying to make up those few spots as we are coming to 20 laps to go. I mean, technically, if you really wanted to, you could probably pit within the next 2-3 laps and you're good to go. But knowing these guys are probably going to want to stretch it out as much as they can, knowing the risk of a caution. Good to see pretty much everybody still in the draft here. Yep, still all the runners, all 29 of them, still in the lead draft. Only drivers out of the race right now, Bob Dixon, the 38 of, is that Melson or Solons? Yeah, it was Rodney Solons. I always get those two confused. And then Brian Wolf as well.
Like our top 10, all going to be single file here down the back straightaway. It's going to be Milt Surratt who's trying to lead the top side there with Brian Lavelle and Michael Brown in tow. They're going to need a lot more help there, though, to be able to get that outside line going. Close between the 80 and the 6 off of turn 4. As Milt Surratt with a little bit of side-to-side warp there. And to your point, yeah, at this point in time, if these drivers from about 5th position on back wanted to come to pit lane, they probably would be able to make it to the checkered flag, but there's no absolute guarantee that you're going to come down pit lane, get your pit stop done, and leave still on the lead lap, especially with the fact that you might only come down with 2 or 3 drivers. However, I'm going to just throw this out there. Back when we talked about John Godfrey, the former winner here in the season finale back in season 51, when he won that race, he came down pit road with only 3 other drivers. There were only 4 drivers in his pack, including himself, and they were the top 4 at the end of the night. So there may be something to be said with coming down pit lane with a smaller pack in terms of the speed you can turn on the track, as opposed to being in a big pack where everybody might be checking up in double wide and 3 wide formations.
I absolutely know what you're talking about because I was actually one of those cars.
You were.
That came down with it.
Another one too, if I'm not mistaken.
I forget who all else joined us, but yeah, I think I restarted 4th and finished 5th there with that race. We got some 3 wide going on here mid-pack. We were talking about trying to make the outside work. Well, right now, Jeremy Jeffries and Mark Paglia are trying to make the inside work, and Tim Knopfsker is going to go with them. Chris Emery right there in the middle. Oh, my goodness.
Man, I don't think you could have finished a sheet of paper between the rear bumper of Emery and the front bumper of Paglia. And remember, those two had contact earlier on the back straightaway. I almost wonder if maybe Emery was saying, hey, Paglia, you owe me one here. Let me in.
Yeah, I don't know how Paglia is going to be feeling about that one. A lot of these guys back here are really moving all over the place, trying to find the lane to get forward because, I mean, we kept saying, hey, we got a long way to go, we got a long way to go. Well, not really anymore. We only are going to have 16 to go this next time by. And that's going to fly by in a hurry, even though we do have one more pit stop. So it's going to be interesting. A lot more guys now trying the far outside line, led by Dave Melson. And they're trying to get it to the outside of Jerome Lewis. So I think we're starting to see the urgency. I thought these guys are definitely sensing that urgency and how it's like, okay, it's go time now.
Yeah, this is what I talked about, the setting yourself up on the racetrack for that upcoming pit stop. And to your point, I mentioned this before, and I'm seeing it even more the longer we get into this race. This is maybe the most unstable I've seen these race cars out on the racetrack in a long, long time. And before we came on the air here, you were talking about how there was a race this season where drivers were saying that it just didn't feel the same. It was an entirely different type of race in terms of how the cars handled and in terms of the racing that took place. I'm wondering if that's what they're dealing with here again tonight.
Yeah, what they were mentioning was that the inside line was so tight to the point that they couldn't even keep it down there, no matter what they tried. So I wonder if that has a lot to do with the fact that they're mainly trying the outside, but then a few guys tried the inside to make some passes, and it's been holding them back a little bit. Although Tim Nosker's not afraid to try it. Poor Jerome Lewis has been getting hung out an awful lot tonight. Now putting in the middle, 3 wide. Josh Metallic on the outside. And these guys are going places now. And we got Melson leading Richard Martin and Zach Freeman. Shout out to him coming up close to the top 10 here in the number 006. And we might go 3 wide here with Knopfsgaard to the inside of Melson and Dave Cannon.
Cannon was trying to get up there and get the side draft on the 38. Leaves the door open for Tim Knopfsgaard. Actually, no, he's not trying to side draft. Correction. What Dave Cannon's trying to do is push that outside line up higher on the racetrack.
Oh, there goes Elliott. Oh, and that's hard in the wall. Cannon.
Oh, my goodness, this is going to take some drivers out for sure.
Richard Martin and Dave Cannon have morphed together. It's probably going to kill them. And involved is Tim Knopfsgaard. There's Freeman. Wiley Coate just flipped. Brian Lovell is around. Cy Jones spinning in the grass.
Roberts
and still flipping.
Nelson is done.
Ken Roberts just got nailed once again. His engine smoking.
My goodness. Yeah, Roberts was trying to get his car turned back around. Got clobbered by Jerome Lewis in the 616. There's at least 5 cars that I've counted that I think are done for the night.
Oh, and that looked like
cars smoking as they're leaving the incident.
Just the slightest of bad bumps to the 9 of Elliott coming off of Dave Cannon. I see Robbie Nice is with a lot of damage there. That's a hard hit to the inside. Yeah, Dave Melson is destroyed.
I was going to mention just before that contact took place, what Dave Cannon was trying to do was trying to push that outside line up even higher so that way they wouldn't get the entry into the corner. He'd be able to clear them in that middle line and keep that outside line at bay. He might have been focused more on that than on what was going on up ahead of him. I don't know if maybe the 9 checked up just the least little bit running behind Grant Wesley or not, and that might have been then what led to that contact. But boy, second big wreck we've had here tonight, and this is going to take out, as I said, quite a number of drivers. The big question mark, though, is that championship contender in Tim Knopfsgaard, because he took a shot from Zach Freeman, he took a shot from Wiley Coate, took another hit from, I believe that was Brian Lavelle in the 143, but for the hits that we saw taken by other drivers, he got through relatively unscathed. But again, as mentioned, when it's moderate damage, what looks harmless can be detrimental, and what looks detrimental can be harmless. So we'll see here in these final 10 laps how up to speed he really is. The big thing, though, is he's going to lose a lot of track position.
Sorry for the sneeze, but yeah, thank you. Yeah, I have no idea how his speed's going to fare. I'm going to watch one more time there because I meant to see how many hits he took, but then I had a sneezing fit. Actually, credit to the save that Jeremy Jeffries had there. Yeah, a couple fairly light hits. Little nudges there from Coate. Actually, I'm kind of bewildered as to what sent him upside down. Oh, jeez. That's one of the more bizarre ways to end up on your side there for Wiley Coat. But yeah, that had to have been at least, just from what I was seeing, that had to have been at least 15 or so cars involved in some way, shape, or form.
So to answer your question there on Wiley Coat, pretty sure with him sporting the Wiley Coyote face on the hood of his car, pretty sure he probably got his tires from the Acme Tire Company. That probably is why he was on the side. Two more drivers out of the race after that incident didn't even bother to come down pit road and get their cars repaired. Richard Martin and Dave Cannon. They will more than likely finish in 27th and 28th, depending on whether Ken Roberts can get back out there, as he actually had to tow his car to pit lane. Right now scored in 29th, but still scored in the race. They have not yet pushed his car back into the infield.
Now I'm looking at him right now. He is coming off of pit road, albeit that car looking a little worse for wear. There is no paint left on the roof. So not sure how he's going to be speed-wise.
The racing was aggressive, but we had the question mark of when they would have to come to pit road. Guess what? Fuel's no longer a concern for these guys. It's out the window. Now it's basically you got what you got.
Wait, did they pit? Was I looking at the replay for too long?
They did. They did pit.
Okay. Because I was going to say, with Paglia up here in second, he probably did that strategy that we were talking about of taking less fuel. Jeremy Jeffries may have done the same thing. I forget. Was he the other driver that went with that strategy? No, it was not
When Jeffries actually was able to have that save through the wreck, he crossed the start-finish line under caution in the 6th position, so he gained a ton of spots. Another driver that actually gained a ton of spots because of getting through the wreck too was Josh Metallic. They crossed the line in 6th and 7th when they came around to receive the yellow.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yep, there's Metallic right there, still showing 7th. Bernie Mobbs, Chris Emery, and there's Milt Saradru appear to have gotten through. They are the driver who was involved in that, and doesn't appear to have been too badly affected, at least in terms of track position. 12th place, Chris Elliott, and that car doesn't look too bad either. So the 9 car might still be in decent shape. I'm going to try to find Nofsker here though. Oh my goodness, Dave Melson with about half a car remaining. Some other drivers with damage back here. There's Nofsker right there. Scored 20th. Car doesn't look bad. I'm not seeing any damage, but again, that's not to say that there's nothing on there. So we'll see how much speed he's got and if we'll be able to get back up to the front within these final 10 laps. Not sure if we'll be going green or getting one to go this time or not. If we do, then we will have 9 laps to the end.
I'm noticing Mark Paglia clutching here. I did a little bit of investigating there on that pit stop of both our race leader and second place running drivers, Joe DeSpirito and Mark Paglia. Paglia gained his track position because he only sat in his stall for 5 seconds worth of fuel. Joe DeSpirito, on the other hand, sat in his stall for 8 seconds worth of fuel. So I think that Paglia went maybe with just half a can only. I think DeSpirito went with a full can. So the guys up here on the front row have a huge difference in terms of what they've got in the tank here for what's going to be less than 10 to go.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, remember, Paglia was one of the drivers that we were talking pitted with coming to 1 to go under the last caution, started clutching, trying to save as much fuel as he could, and I think that may have played into his favor that he didn't need to take any more fuel. So I think that's the golden call that put him in this position to be up here, and as you said, now on the front row for the number 28. So just sorry.
I was just going to say, Paglia and Zach Freeman have made the most trips to pit lane, 7 apiece for them, and a number of those would have been them coming down under these cautions to top off the fuel tank on either the second or third lap of pacing.
Well, there you go. So varying strategies, and they can all work in different ways for you. So Joe DeSpirito leading the race, leading the championship fight right now. You got Paglia in second, then it's Dante Ricky and Bob Sebanera, very accomplished superspeedway racers. And then eights are wild in row number 3, Jeremy Jeffries and the next best running championship contender, Grant Wesley, in the 88. He's going to be on the outside, which on the initial start maybe not the most preferred lane, but we'll see if he can get that run going, again with some very experienced drivers in front of him. Josh Metallic and Bernie Mobbs will be the 4th row, and running out the top 10 will be Chris Emery and Melt Surratt. Of course, also be sure to keep an eye on the 088 of Tim Nofsker for the back of the field. We are going to have 9 laps to shoot it out here.
You know it's a good race when we're 57 laps in and you have to remind me it's a championship race. I didn't that was completely out of my head. I've just been enjoying the racing we've had here tonight at Talladega, and oh boy, it's been aggressive early in this race. It's just going to ramp up even more because not only is there a championship on the line, there's one last opportunity to capture a W here in season 53.
Remember that 3 wide that you were talking about earlier? I think this is going to be the time where you're going to see it. But man, what a shove to DeSpirito. He's already clear of Paglia. Paglia's trying to side draft him a little bit. And he's going to get back to Sebanera. That is not what he wants. Oh, DeSpirito trying to get up to the outside, and he's going to be able to do so. Trying to clear the 28. And that's actually going to really help him as far as just trying to stay ahead of the 88, being that they're in the same line.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, about 3 car lengths between 2 drivers battling for the championship. I'm going to drop back, keep an eye on the progress of Tim Nofsker, who appears to be up to speed. He's jumped up to the top side in line behind John Godfrey. Looked to jump down to the inside line, but going to tuck in that middle line for the moment. Got the 072 that's now jumped to the outside, so put Nofsker in the middle 3 wide. But looks like that car is good to go, is up to speed, but only a limited number of laps to work his way back up to the front.
Down to 8 laps now, and look at this run for Dante Ricky. He might clear. Or no, he's not going to clear, but he's definitely to the door of the 24s. He nearly pushes up into him. Jeremy Jeffries behind him, and these guys are all right on top of each other. And this is where things can get pretty crazy. Right now it's DeSpirito inching ahead, trying to use the inside line, and the shorter way around to his advantage is Dante Ricky. And Bernie Mobbs kind of peeking up there. I wouldn't be surprised if that 3rd line forms here soon enough.
Dante Ricky mentioned that last season he won 3 races in a row at the end of the regular season, the start of the playoffs. Incredibly enough, 1 season later here, he's looking for his first win on the season. So far, a 0 in the win column for that Toyota.
Oh man, then you know that he's going to be lurking for that one. And I will say to everyone who's been watching this race, who's used to watching the IMRC races, like, they are going to lap 66. We will not be having any green-white checkers if a caution comes out toward the end of the race. They will race back to the start-finish line, and then if the race ends under caution, then that's just how it's going to end. So that also might, it's either going to do one of 2 things. It's either going to help these guys calm down so that they make it to the checkered, or it's going to ramp it up even more in case caution does come out. And they need the track position, but right now the outside lane is starting to prevail once again. DeSpirito is dominated tonight, still looking good.
You know, obviously the 3 championship competitors, DeSpirito, Wesley, and Nofsker, they've raced in this series for years. Everybody knows them, knows their racing style, knows what they're capable of. But I have to wonder between last week and this week, how much was driver, how much was diplomat for those 3, trying to make alliances of, hey, work with me, I'll work with you, I'll try and get you a win if you try and help me get the championship. Paglia in that 28 looks pretty committed to pushing the 24 of DeSpirito out in front.
Well, for now, we're coming to 5 laps to go. I don't... Okay, that's warp. Okay. I warped.
Big
Sorry about that.
In the closing stages of these races is that point of no return. If we end up having a caution before the leader hits the completion of laps...
Oh gosh darn it, come on.
If we complete that 6... we end up having a caution. Race will end under yellow, and all cautions at this point in time are raced back.
Absolutely. I very much apologize for my internet blip there. Of course, of all times, it has to be now. But I think we're good now. Fingers
as long
crossed.
As it's not in the white flag lap.
True that. You want that'll somehow happen. But, knock on wood.
Full of me from a previous RTG race where I ended up saying that they were coming around to take the white flag, and they actually were taking the checkers. So.
Oh, there we go. Third line. Trying to form it up there. Milt Saran, and I think that was Chris Elliott trying to form it. We are at 4 to go on the season. And Dante Ricci starting to come back a little bit on the inside.
Where you're going to see that inside line, no space between the bumpers. Push is going to come to shove to make that inside line work. Jeffrey's trying to hook right to the back bumper.
Oh boy.
Look at
Wesley's going to try.
He's wide for fourth.
He's trying it up there, and oh man, he just checked up that entire line. And Bernie Mobbs is going to fill that gap, but he's trying to get up to Joe DeSpirito right now. But Dante Ricci has used that inside to his advantage. The 3 wide is definitely helping him as well. Oh, I think they doored each other down in the 88.
Right now, DeSpirito leading the middle line. You've got Nofsker about 7 rows back in the middle line, and Wesley on the top side. Wrong way, actually, almost.
Oh, they're going to go around. Oh, and surrounding the wall hard, and including Wesley.
This is the race. We're racing back to the checkered flag proverbially here. Race is going to end under yellow.
Well, DeSpirito, I think, just won the championship with that, but now it's for the race.
DeSpirito, what's he going to do here? He just has to finish better than one car.
Oh, Emery!
Emery's going to get spun. Michael Brown is spinning there in 3. Still side by side for the top position off of 4.
Jeremy Jeffries pushing the 84. Paglia behind the 24. And the Paglia is not going to be content. Going to give it a shot. It's going to be a photo finish.
Dante's going to have the big push here to the start-finish line.
Shoving it, Ricky. I think.
Yes, it was Dante Ricci, but by how much is the question? I'm going to try and wait for my scoring to update, give you the thousands, because I guarantee you that's what it was.
Oh, it has to be. That was as close as it gets. They were almost sideways going across the start-finish line there.
7 1,000s.
7 1,000s. 0.007. And I can officially say that I think that is the second closest finish I recall ever seeing in an online race. But
Dante Ricci is one of those that has the flair for the dramatics. I swear. I think it was 2 seasons ago he ended up winning the season opener. 3-time winner last season, as mentioned, with 3 in a row, and here tonight came in with a 0 in the win column, and by a Camry splitter is going to be picking up this victory.
Just barely over the 24. Mark Paglia tried to make the move on the far outside. Of course, we're also going to see the couple of incidents there on the final green flag lap. They're coming to the proper white flag here. We're watching them take that, and then we'll see what happened to cause the race-ending caution of the night. But man, that was awesome to see. Photo finish. I mean, you expect that at Talladega, but you don't get to see that too often, especially on stream. So, great job by those guys, and great job to Dante Ricci. Just has to navigate one more caution lap. And like you said, first win of the season. Joe DeSpirito going to come up just short of the win, but that is going to be another championship for that 24.
Going to be his 3rd championship of his career here in the Tally Challenge, and 3rd championship in the last 4 seasons. So what a tremendous job by Joe DeSpirito. And I'll tell you what, I know that he would have loved to have capped this off not only with the championship, but with his 3rd win on the season. And the reason that it was that close at the start-finish line, Dante Ricci actually had the advantage by about 1/3 of a car length off of the tri-oval. We saw Paglia jump up to the top side, which took away the drafting help for DeSpirito, but Bob Sebanera had a big push up the middle, gave a big late shot to Joe DeSpirito, which almost got him the win at the start-finish line. That's the only reason that he had a ghost of a shot to maybe edge the 84 there once they got to the stripe.
Yeah, I saw Paglia trying to make it 3 wide to go for the race win, and all credit to him. He fell back to, looks like it's going to be a top 5 still, though, for that 28. Honestly, I think Jeremy Jeffries was even a little bit sideways there, pushing on the inside, but going to emerge third with a great finish. Of course, we mentioned Sebanera there. He will be in 4th. So a great run there for that entire top 5. Of course, pretty normal top 5 here for the Talladega Challenge. 84, 24, 8, 7, 12. And the 28, Bernie Mobbs in 6th. Josh Metallic was upside down at one point in this race.
Yes, he was.
And is going to finish in 7th place. A driver that we have not mentioned at all will finish in the top 10. That's Billy Elliser with an 8th. Tim Nofsker.
Playoff contender from a couple seasons ago, Billy Elliser.
Oh, okay, yeah. So.
Well, actually, no, he was a former winner, actually, too, if I recall. Ended up getting the win when the unofficial winner actually got penalized and EOL'd.
Wow. Oh, that one. Wiley Coat will round out the top 10 in the number 6. But it's official now for Dante Ricky. Going to break the winless streak on the season. The McDonald's Toyota bringing it home, and the Exalta Chevrolet going to hoist the championship trophy for tonight. Pretty dominating fashion, but we'll come up just short of that race win. As you said, just a whisker short.
24 and the 84 are going to bear the colors of probably every car in the field as they all pull alongside of those machines and give them a congratulatory bump. Maybe a little more than
a little more than that.
Meltzerat.
Oh man, it tore up Meltzerat at that. There was Robbie Nices, who was pretty tore up as well.
Look at this, the meeting of the Golden Arches.
Oh man. Those two were actually running the same scheme at one point this season.
I believe they're teammates.
Oh yeah. But man, that is awesome to see. We see Ricky doing a couple spins there. Despirito coming around back to the front stretch. We are going to take a couple looks at those couple incidents on the final lap. Final green flag lap, I should say.
Despirito, a very consistent season for him, but not as many trips to victory lane as we're used to calling. You know, we've seen him multiple times in victory lane, sometimes 3-4 times during the course of a season. Coming into tonight, only 2 wins on the season. Locked himself up a playoff spot in the second race and didn't win again until last week to be able to lock himself into the final 4. But not a win here tonight. A second place, still that's enough to be able to lock him up his 3rd championship.
That's all it took right there, as we see what unfortunately not Grant Wesley's championship hopes out of the window. I think he kind of bounced off of, that was Bernie Mobbs just below him, and then all of a sudden, as he bounced off, Meltzerat tried to avoid him and also bounced off and bounced him into Grant Wesley. That was just a crazy chain reaction of events. Zach Freeman with a hellacious hit to the outside wall. You see Glenn Harris spinning around. There's Blaine Donlin also around, and then we saw another incident up here. Chris Emery going around. That was off the 020 of Michael Brown. Nearly upside down was the 60 of Perry Bone. That's another driver that we didn't even say his name whatsoever. That's Mike Rogers in the 011 also around. And Robbie Nice is also getting tore up as a result of that. But officially at the stripe, 7 1,000ths between the 84 and the 24. And it was Sebanera that nearly went sideways. Everyone pushing for every bit they could.
Andrew, random question.
Sure.
What would a NOS-flavored Oreo taste like, do you think?
Oh, God, don't give them ideas.
I think that's what Dave Melson and Jeremy Jeffries were working on. They were pushing into each other on pit road for about the last 3 minutes.
Nice. Oh, that's too good. So there's the official margin. Ricky getting it over Despirito. But of course, Despirito going to be happy about getting that championship. course, shout out to Jeffries there with the third place finish. Sebanera fourth. Mark Paglio on the outside 3 wide. That will be a top 5 on a great strategy call for the 28. Then Mobs, Metallic, and Elliser. Novsker and Wiley Coat the top 10. Also credit to an 11th place finish for Cy Jones after running toward the back most of the night as well. Man, that was cool. That was really freaking cool.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, these guys, doesn't matter what week it is, what the scenario is. It could be the season opener, it could be the season finale, it could be the midway point, it could be the regular season finale. I mean, doesn't matter where it is in the schedule. You're guaranteed you're going to have an exciting race here in the Tally Challenge, and championship on the line, last chance to win in the season. No surprise we saw some torn up race cars at the end of this one, but man, oh man, that's just Talladega. It doesn't matter where you are. Talladega is going to bring about those exciting finishes, and a lot of different storylines coming into this race. A lot of storylines now to head into a silly season as these drivers all get themselves prepared for the upcoming 54th season in a few weeks.
And we'll definitely be looking forward to that. I'm definitely looking forward to getting back on track with these guys and joining that one. Brian Lovell there in chat. Good seeing you out there, man. Good job. Credit to you. Holy crap. Man, I just hope that I was able to do the race justice with putting this stream on. I know that I'm not a flat out racing network, but that was a lot of fun to do. We'll see if we're able to maybe chat with any of the drivers or not. I'm not seeing any of them hop up. Would you normally just drag them up here?
Normally do, yep.
I'm not sure.
Pick a driver, any driver.
I'm not sure because earlier I went down there and said, "Hey, if you want to be interviewed, just join the waiting room and we'll move you up here." I mean, I guess we'll go ahead and talk with the race winner to start with, Dante Ricky. You can go ahead and
User was moved to your channel.
or you can go ahead and move him right away. We'll take that one. Winner of the night by 7/1000ths of a second. Dante Ricky, how you feeling, man?
Hey Andrew, wow, that was an exciting finish to a really long, hard-fought race for the season-ending race, and I'll tell you what, that was exhausting to say the least. I'll tell you that.
It looked exhausting, but it was a lot of fun to watch. Just trying to dictate which line went where. I know that the inside line over the last few weeks has really struggled to get going, but on that final run there, and you made it work absolutely perfectly. Was there anything that you had to do differently, or just a matter of pushing at the right time? How to go for it?
Well, I'll tell you this, Andrew. I kind of got stuck in the inside line from the way the pit stop worked out there at the end, but it's all about luck and when people behind you make moves and things of that sort. The inside line definitely has not been favored this season, and I knew going on to that last restart that there was a good chance that I wasn't going to, come out in front or really have the best position to win. I wanted to get up to the middle. I wanted to also protect the bottom and challenge the drivers in the middle for position. I was around the fifth position at times and was really happy to stay in the top 5 all night tonight. That was the real key for me, to stay in the top 5, stay up front. It kept me out of a lot of trouble in the middle and back of the pack during this race. And never got that green flag pit stop in, but I'll tell you what, it was all a matter of strategy, and Jeremy Jeffries did a great job pushing me. It was a lot of fun to work with Joe DeSpirito tonight and Bob and a few people in the middle. Definitely, though, it was not the race I expected, because the middle line was extremely dominant throughout the green flag racing, and it was difficult. You really had to stay patient and just, if you found yourself in a bad position, be patient, work your way back up without making too many moves. That was the key to the night, staying up front and staying out of trouble. And a big thanks to Jeremy for pushing me at the end. I didn't think we were going to be favored to win there with the way the numbers worked out, but we got a good run on the last lap and came across the line first. So it was real exciting.
And that's what it took right there. Seth, you got anything for him?
I mean, Dante, obviously I remember back to last season when we were getting to that regular season finale and we hadn't seen you go to victory lane yet. You'd been up there consistently in the podium, but then you finally got that win the season finale. You go to victory lane the next 2 times during the playoffs. So you seem to have a flair for the dramatics. Now, I know that you didn't run the full schedule here this season, run about maybe 2/3 of the schedule, but how much did you want to be able to win this race, close out the season at least with a crooked number in that win column?
Hey Seth, good to see you, man. Yeah, I'll tell you what, this has been a tough season for me. Last week we had a mechanical failure when we were running up front in the top 5, and it just made things very difficult. And it definitely gives us a lot of energy. We got a win for McDonald's here on the season finale, and hopefully for the fall we'll have a program to get going again. My friend Justy Klein from Outlaw Racing is making a comeback to RTG. He's going to plan to run some Tally Challenge races, and hopefully we'll have Sonny Tallman back as well. So shout out to those two for making this such an exciting series and being able to come when they can. And we're going to have a good program for the super speedways next season, that's for sure. We'll be ones to watch. And new sponsor Canada Dry will be coming on board with a nice paint job from Rodney Sullins. So thank you to Rodney as well for everything that he does and all those amazing paint jobs and hours. But yeah, to really get a race win here on the season finale, that's a big energy booster, and we're going to take that momentum and carry it forward with us. It doesn't stop here, that's for sure. We got a lot of good racing coming up next season, Seth. It's really, really helpful to get our energy boost up and to be able to compete with everyone one last time.
Yeah, I could definitely tell that you got a boost from that one. But yep, getting that win for McDonald's, I guess you could say you're loving it.
Yeah, big thanks also to Jason Scheck for painting me this McDonald's car, and we'll pull this out for a couple races here and there. Believe me, it's good to got a race win, and hopefully many more.
Hey, right on, man. Credit to you. I'll let you have the floor for any other closing thoughts that you might have, and we'll let you get rolling.
Yeah, really exciting race, and big thanks to my family, my brother and sister, and everyone watching tonight, and really good to see you guys back here in the booth, and good to have broadcasting here at RTG. It was an exciting one, I'm sure. So, thanks a lot.
Oh, hey, man, that was my pleasure. I appreciate you guys letting me do this. It was an honor.
On the season championship, really, really well deserved and good season. Seth, good to see you. Andrew, thank you for everything, man.
Yeah.
Hey, right on.
Hey, enjoy your victory.
Thanks.
User was moved out.
I'll get that champagne. I could tell.
They sell champagne at McDonald's. I can guarantee you that.
They should.
They'll give you fries. They'll give you fries with your meal, but they won't give you champagne.
Oh, man. They should, though. They should not bring back the McLobster. But no, I could definitely tell he was pretty jazzed about that. That was really cool to see him get that one. But he mentioned Joe DeSpirito. Shall we get our champion up in here real quick?
Yes, indeed.
User was moved to your channel.
There's the champ. Joe DeSpirito. You came up just short of the race win. But really, throughout the night, you had that race dominated. You had those other 2 contenders pretty much in the palm of your hand. And just kept it clean for you. But hey, that's another championship for you. How are you feeling?
Unbelievable, man. I'm speechless. I can't believe I'm here again. It's good strategy all night long, me and my guys. Just communication, knowing where Tim and Grant were at all times, and just playing the lines correctly, pushing hard. And I lucked out, stayed out of trouble, and I made one mistake in the pits, and I overshot my pit. And other than that, it was clean all night, and just luckily stayed up there, man. Led a lot of laps. That was fun.
Yeah, led probably the most. I know it's a stat that Seth could probably pull up for me, but like I said, you had that race dominated. You have been one of the most consistent drivers really in this series. Haven't done it for so long, so I'm sure that it almost feels like second nature getting your way around here. But having a race come down to that close, it was officially 7/1000ths of a second, .007 between you and Dante there. I guess if there was anything else you could have done there, but I'm sure it doesn't matter being it's the championship anyway.
Yeah. I could have gone down and blocked the bottom. I was clear a couple times, and I don't know. I just kind of froze up and just stayed where I was. I knew my teammates were behind me in the middle, and I was kind of undecided if I wanted to leave them and go to the bottom, or suck it up and stay with them, and hopefully they could just keep that third lane away and push me hard. And that ended up being the way it went. And yeah, I didn't win, but the main goal was to get the championship, and I got the W there. So.
Hey, that's what it's all about. Seth, you got anything for him?
Yeah, I want to touch on something that Joe was talking about, and obviously, the big picture racing for the championship, keeping tabs on where Nofsker and Wesley were at all times. Now, we saw that Nofsker got caught up in the caution just prior to that last restart, was starting back in traffic, and Wesley ended up getting put almost up into the wall there after contacting himself in a couple of machines. So at that point in time, how did the racing mentality change? Because we saw that Dante was kind of trying to force you up there on that inside line to try and get the run off the corner. I mean, there could have been a possibility the two of you make contact and maybe you spin out and lose the championship. So did it change the way that you raced up there at the front coming to that caution flag?
A little bit, yeah. I wasn't even worried about really winning. Mark had been pushing me very hard, almost too hard going into the turns. And on the backstretch, after Grant wrecked, he went on the team speak and said, "Good win, Joe." And I said back to him, I said, "It's not over yet." And we were going into 3, and I went on team speak and I said, "Easy in the turns, guys," because I didn't want Mark to spin me or whoever was behind Mark to down the line push the accordion effect up and spin me. But so I kind of was hoping they didn't spin me. I was kind of racing defensive in 3 and 4 there, and it all worked out to where the two guys that I was racing got in wrecks, and like I said, I stayed up there out of everything all night long, and crazy, man. It all worked out.
It worked out beautifully, and congratulations, man. I think Seth said that's like 3 of the last 4 championships for you. Major congratulations, major props to you. You are easily, I would say, one of the best super speedway racers that this sim has to offer. So it's always cool to see you going around there. I'll give you the floor for any closing thoughts though before I let you go.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Yeah, it's good to keep it in the stable. It's my 5th win, and I got to thank my guys, Bob Sebanera, Bernie Mobs. Bernie having the best paint jobs out there, always painting the perfect cars that I request of him. I got to thank everybody watching at home, guys from the post office. Got to thank my sponsors, TravisLutherArt.com. Like I said, everybody watching at home, my family. I've been having internet connection issues, as Seth knows, the last couple seasons, and it's kind of panned out for me to where it settled down, and it kind of helped out to where I didn't have any problems tonight. And I want to thank you guys for broadcasting. Seth, it's good to hear your voice again. I'm hoping we could do FRN with us next season or the season after. So thanks again, guys. It's crazy. I can't believe it.
Hey, it was an honor to do this. I appreciate you guys for letting me do this, and of course Seth for joining me. But congrats on the championship, man. You definitely deserve a pretty good celebration after that one. Well done.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Congrats, Joe.
Thank you.
User was moved out of your channel.
I can't help but love the fact that a William Byron car driver has won this championship. I see William Byron schemes week after week with that 24. I love it.
Yeah, that's always that's always cool to see. Some real life tributes and then some throwbacks. Like you mentioned, Bernie Mobs right there running the, if I'm not mistaken, the old Jeff Burton colors. That was always cool to see. Just great racing from all you guys at RGG, and thank you to everyone for watching. This was definitely a change of pace from the IMRC, and I really am glad that I got the opportunity to stream this one. And Seth, being that you were able to join me for this one, knowing that you've watch these guys for a couple seasons, for the entirety of those seasons. You really added a lot to this one, and I can't thank you enough. So I'll go ahead and ask you for whatever closing thoughts you might have.
Yeah, I appreciate you extending out the offer to me to be able to step in the booth here tonight as well. As you mentioned, got the privilege to be able to watch these guys for 2 seasons, battle it out week after week, close championship battles in those season finales. Unfortunately, scheduling conflicts not allowing me to be able to broadcast this season, and more than likely won't be able to do season 54 either. Maybe season 55. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But as soon as I got that message from Andrew, immediately as soon as I knew it was RTG Tally Challenge and I had tonight open, it was an absolute quick yes. I was going to be here tonight because, like I said at the top of the program, these guys bring something to the table completely different in terms of super speedway racing. It could be a long green flag race. It could be a caution race with strategy. You never know what you're going to see when these guys take that green flag. But the one thing you are absolutely guaranteed on is action-packed racing every single lap. And much like tonight, an exciting finish. Tonight, yes, the race ended under yellow, but it was thousandths of a second coming back to the proverbial checkered flag. And of course, as you mentioned as well there, Andrew, a lot more on the line with the fact that the championship hung in the balance.
And that made a big difference probably in terms of how these guys approached it. We saw combos of some long green flag runs. The only thing that we missed were green flag pit stops, but these guys made up for it in terms of the product that they were able to put on. But really, that's just their MO. That's just how they do it. They are the best in super speedway racers. I would say that this game has to offer, being that they've done it for so long and so consistently, and it shows right there. They know a thing or two. So I could not encourage everyone enough to check out Rolling Thunder Gaming. Again, this is not the only series that they run. They also have several other series that run on different days of the week. So I would definitely encourage you to check them out. Message either Josh Metallic or Dave Cannon or any of the other admins if you are interested in joining in, or really any other online league here for NR 2003. It is still a very healthy scene, and I'd hope that these broadcasts maybe help get the word out a little bit, as is always the hope. So on that note, though, again, thank you so much, Seth. Thank you to all the guys at RTG for letting me do this. And congratulations to Dante Ricky on the race win, Joe DeSpirito on the championship. I'm going to wrap it up here, though. Thank you, everyone, again. Of course, thank you all for watching. Until next time, though, have a good one. Take care, and bye for now.